So last time we were here, Katie highlighted the pie. Who got pie? Pie. All right. This time I'm going to turn pie into PIE, right? What we want you to experience today is practical, right? Interactive and excellent. So I hope you're ready to welcome MJ up here. I'm going to read a brief bio on her real quick. I did want to read this because I didn't want to get it wrong. MJ is the founder of Two Partners. She has previously worked as the VP of HR at HCA Healthcare Hospital and held several leadership roles at Johns Hopkins, Hilton, and Marriott. Also, MJ has conducted over 155 training sessions to over 3,000 participants. She's trained in over 13 cities nationwide. International someday? Someday? Okay. Fantastic. Okay, we're gonna add that to the list. All right. 50 webinars she has led, 40 on-site corporate trainings, and she has awarded over 200 SHRM PDC hours. So don't forget to get yours today. Without further ado, MJ Whalen.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very sweet. All right, guys. Well, it's great to have a small but mighty group. I'm excited to have you all here. And this training, if you came to the first one of the series, is a continuation of that. So we're going to cover 3 topics today. In our world of total rewards, we're going to cover pay transparency, we're going to cover our benefits utilization, of course, and then we're also going to cover a really important topic to me, one that's really near and dear to my heart, is the total rewards piece that focuses on those employees' kind of intangibles. So what are those extra things that we can do? What are the different benefits that we can offer and programs that we can put in place and swag? And what are all of those little extra things that the employees really look forward to, but maybe it's difficult to capture in a survey, or maybe it's difficult to capture the ROI, but we're going to talk a lot about those. So I really appreciate JP giving me that nice intro. I am not going to go into more about me. There is plenty of information out there on LinkedIn and plenty of information out there that you can find on me. So you have my contact information on the table, and we'll just go with that introduction for now. So what you'll leave with today is important. I, as an HR executive, have sat through many of these where you just kind of death by PowerPoint and receive information where someone is talking at you, and then you're like, okay, that was a lot, and then you go back to your office like, whew, all right. But we really want to break these down for you in a way where you take away something meaningful and you have the opportunity to critically think through the material that we're reviewing. And most importantly, you have the worksheet and you can take good notes. So we all know, you have a pen and paper in front of you. We all know that when we take good notes, when we write things down, we're activating different areas of our brain, and it increases the likelihood that we're going to retain the information. And when the moment arises when we need to utilize that information, it's going to help us recall that information. So I really want to encourage you, grab your pen, grab your paper, open that workbook, and take good notes. Write these things down. And when you're writing them down and when you're having these discussions at your table, think about the conversation that you want to have with your senior team. Think about the conversation that you want to have with your employees. And lastly, think about the conversation more broadly about retention. Retention is kind of this big, nebulous word that we throw around in the HR space. Like, we gotta retain, we gotta retain, we gotta retain. What does that mean? What it means is that we're putting strategic plans in place and executing those plans so that the people you spent so much time and energy and money recruiting into your organization that are doing a good job, that they stay. That's what retention means, and that's very impactful on the business that we all have and all the work that we do. think about when someone leaves. When they leave, even if it's someone with a short tenure, they have all that institutional knowledge, all of those relationships that they built, all of that energy that's gone into building them up as an employee. When they leave, all of that goes with them. So we want to work really hard, and we want to be really strategic in the space of who are we keeping in the organization and what are we going to offer them to make sure they stay with us. That's the retention we're talking about today. Sound good? Okay, so we're going to start off with some stats. This one, super surprising, right? 63%, this is a big number, 63% of employees that were polled indicated that if there was more pay transparency, they would have an increase of trust with the senior leaders in their organization. So how do we do this? Well, we were just having a conversation at the table right here, right? Michelle and I. How are we showing the employees what their total compensation number is? Do you have a mechanism in place right now, a place in the portal that they can go and they can click on and they can see not just this is my base salary, but this is the base salary plus, because that number gets much larger. And when employees see that, they start to go, okay, maybe this is a pretty good gig I have here, right? So we want to not only have that portal and have the place where they can see those numbers, but are we on the HR team educating our employees on where that information is? Are we taking the time to do those lunch and learns, right? Where you say, okay, we're gonna talk about benefits, guys. We're gonna talk about our benefits portal. Open it up, click here, click here, click here. Now look at this number. This is your base salary. This is the additional benefits. This is the 401k, et cetera. And it all together equals this. How many of you have had a lunch and learn like that where you've explained to everyone where they can find that information? Nice, nice. And now you can even, if you don't have time to do the lunch and learn, record a quick video. Record a quick video for the employees, show them click by click how to get there, email it to them, email them a quick link. So those are some tools that you can use to demonstrate total compensation, because we know from this poll, and this is from 2025, this is pay scale. We all know the company pay scale. This is reliable information. 63% of the employees, they want this. All right, so that's the first one. Second one, this one's from Gallup. 23% of the employees strongly agree that the benefits that their organization offers meets their needs. So what is this telling us? That 80 some odd percent or 70 some odd percent of the employees are not having benefits that meet their needs. So what is the action item for us there? The action item for us there is to do benefits utilization, to review what benefits we have, to review our offerings, to review what are the things that really matter to our employees. Are you having discussions with them when someone comes in your office and they're there to talk about whatever, their newest employee relations issue of the week, right? When they're there to complain, you know you're the mobile complaint department as the HR team. So when they're there to complain, when they're there with their next employee relations issue, are you asking them about their benefits? Are you taking time to ask those questions just to anecdotally figure out what's really meaningful for them? How many of you do a formal survey where you ask employees about benefits and ask them if the benefits are meeting their needs? Awesome, awesome. So those of you raising your hand, what does that look like? Is it coming out annually? Is it coming out?
We do it annually.
Okay.
Through SurveyMonkey. So it's
Perfect.
anonymous, and we just, it's like maybe 5 or 6 questions, just asking how everyone feels about our benefit package.
Love that. And does SurveyMonkey dump the results into a spreadsheet for you?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not the administrator.
Gotcha.
So, but that's how we do it.
Okay. Okay, so SurveyMonkey is one option. If you're a smaller organization and you can't pay for one of those big survey platforms because they're expensive, do a quick SurveyMonkey. The other thing you can do is if your organization pays for Microsoft, you can go into your Microsoft menu and you can open up a quick Microsoft form. It takes 2 minutes. Put 2 or 3 questions in there, send it out to everyone, just to get some of that information. And when you do it in Microsoft, it'll actually feed right into an Excel spreadsheet that you can then share with your executive team, because they're going to want to say, oh, well, what you want this and you want this, those things are too expensive, right? But if you have the data and you can go back to that executive team and say, okay, we surveyed everyone, this is what the spreadsheet says, and here are our numbers of how many employees want something else. Now you've got your receipts, you've got your backup. Okay, this next one, 51% of employees who left, so this is employees who left an organization, they said that they would have benefited from having additional recognition. Here's what I want you to write down. There is no version of being an employee where there's too much recognition. I have never had, okay, in my 16 years of being an HR leader, someone go, you know what? You're just recognizing us too much. You guys are just too nice. You guys are just doing too much for us as employees. Has anyone ever experienced that? Crickets. Crickets. No, there's no version of that. So it may seem trivial. It may seem trivial to give swag. It may seem trivial to give the extra goodies during the holiday time, but people really look forward to that. If you think about this, if you think about where your employees are and what your employee demographic looks like, if you have employees that are making lower wages, more junior salaries, more entry-level wages, those employees can't afford a $40 water bottle, right? They can't afford a $75 North Face jacket. So if you give them the $75 North Face jacket and it's emblazoned with your company's logo, and you give them the really nice, what's the trendy water bottle now? Odwalla, is that how you say it? Whatever. That one, it used to be Stanley. Before that, it used to be Yeti. Whatever. Whatever the new cool thing is, I don't know. Those of you on Instagram can tell me. But whatever the cool water bottle is that we're supposed to have now, that one. Imagine you're giving that to your employees and it's got the company logo. Those things are very meaningful. So we're going to talk today about different programs that you can put in place. Maybe they're wellness initiated, maybe they're just tied to points, but how can you find those intangible things that are really meaningful, especially to some of your junior employees or your employees that are making a more entry-level wage. All right, so now I want you to, if you haven't already, take out your worksheet. We're going to do a self-assessment and take your time with it. When you are finished with your self-assessment, you can go ahead and put your pens down. And then we're going to talk at our tables. And you can be honest. You don't have to share your answers with your neighbor. This is on the self-assessment side. So the front side, right here. Okay, it looks like everybody is finished. So I'm going to chat with you about the first one. And then after we chat about the first one, we're going to chat with our neighbors at our table about the others. So the first one on here, and the reason I listed it first on the worksheet, when it comes to pay bands and when it comes to transportation, when it comes to transparency around compensation, we have to, in the HR world, we have to be careful, right? Because we know that if we are overly transparent in certain circumstances, we're going to create unnecessary resentment, perhaps, or even competition within our own ranks. And the larger your workforce is, the more cognizant you have to be of those aspects. However, what I want you to write down in your notes, and the thing that I really want you to think about when it comes to your compensation strategy, and it is a strategy, is are you looking at the positions within your organization, especially the junior roles, and creating some kind of a trajectory for those junior colleagues so that they will stay within your organization? And do they have an awareness of those compensation bands and how they line up? Because if I'm new and I'm joining your organization and I am the infamous Gen Z employee, right? And I am now joining your organization and I join at a junior level, I want to know and understand what are the positions within the organization, skills-wise, scope-wise, and maybe even direct reports wise, if it's going to be a leadership position, what's next for me? And what do those potential pay bands look like? So we don't have to be so specific. And I know that in certain government roles and in certain community roles, we have to publish salaries. But for those of you that are working in the private sector where you don't necessarily have to publish, what you can communicate to your employees, especially when they're new to the organization, is this is what's next for you, and this is what the pay band looks like. And that creates some of that transparency in terms of where do we go next? Because what do we hear from so many people that are younger in the workforce, that are junior colleagues? In order to increase their salary, they have to do what? They have to leave. That is a very common idea. If you go out on Instagram right now and you follow some of those HR influencers, that is what they are telling them out on social media. Oh, you want to progress within your organization? Don't stay with your organization for more than a year. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And we can really change the narrative by increasing the transparency when it comes to this is what's next for you, this is the pay band. So maybe think about having that discussion with your leadership next. For the other things on the list, what I want you to do, because some of them are benefits related, I want you to chat with your neighbor. If someone marked themselves really high in a space and you marked yourself low or vice versa, we want to trade strategies. So we're going to trade strategies with our colleagues at the table and see who has some of the best strategies in place so that we can learn from each other. So much of what we do in the HR space, and the reason why our organizations, our professional organizations like SHRM, and the different places that we go and meet each other are important, is because we learn from each other. We can't always go to our CEO or our CFO and ask for advice. We certainly can't ask the employees for advice, so we have to learn from one another. So let's take a few moments, let's go through the next couple of strategies at your table and share with each other the things that you have in place and that you're doing well so that we can all learn from one another.
MJ, question on the compensation structure.
Yeah.
In your opinion, when is the best time to have that conversation about progressing through the compensation bands?
Yes.
So you can get ahead of them potentially looking elsewhere?
Yes.
But also, if you do it at the onboarding time, they're probably just going to be looking
Yes,
forward to this.
that is a great question. So there's two answers. One is you want to have that conversation during the introductory period in terms of 30, 60, 90, especially when someone joins an organization and they say out loud, I want to grow. Because I want to grow doesn't necessarily mean they want to grow with you. Yes. So we want to take advantage during that 30, 60, 90. And then I would always recommend that during performance evaluations, you have those conversations with your top performers. Because that's part of your overall strategy from a total reward standpoint to retain. The word that I want you to leave this training with today is retention. What are we going to do to strategically impact retention? Yeah. So I'm hearing a lot of good strategies, and I want to point out a few of them because I think they're really fabulous. In the back table, Jane, will you take a second and walk us through? So this is a really good strategy for how to educate employees, which is something that is always on our plate, but we don't always have time for. So if you'll share, go ahead, Jane.
Sure. Stand up so I can see everybody. Actually, this credit goes to Amanda Simmons. She's our manager of employee health. She's actually a nurse, so she runs all of our workers' comp and our benefits and whatnot, which is a real blessing. Well, she found out that a week before, so it was National Benefits Day was coming up. So what we did is she actually sent our benefits ambassador, which is our benefits specialist, has that title, out to all 13 of our locations over the next 2 weeks to talk about benefits. We were very clear, this is not open enrollment, you cannot change your benefits. It was an opportunity to tell people about all the benefits that we do have. I mean, and not just the medical, the dental, but the wellness plan. We have a very robust wellness plan. About those kind of things, about our tuition reimbursement, all of those kind of things. So it was a great opportunity face to face to see our employees and just remind them what great benefits they do have. And I just, kudos to what you said about the total comp statement.
Yeah.
We do that, we have that in our HR items,
Yeah.
we do it in January, but you know what, it's June. This is a good opportunity to remind people,
Yes.
either with a post or a link, or like you said, a 2-minute video
Yes.
of where to go and how to find it. Because I know in HR, we're very cyclical with our calendar.
Mm-hmm.
Check that box, we did that in January, but that's a great idea to bring it back up to the forefront. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for that. That was great. Very good job. Great job, Amanda. That was fantastic. So again, we're giving you these practical takeaways, things that you can add to your calendar when you leave here. So maybe jot that down as an idea that you want to put in place for 2027. Maybe midway through the year, if you're doing mid-year evaluations where you're checking in before you do the performance evaluation, maybe you make it a requirement for that leader to print off their total compensation statement when they sit down with them to have the mid-year check-in. And you say, hey, just friendly reminder, our organization pays for this much of your benefits. And that is another way that we're building into our conversation that retention language and those retention strategies. So always keeping those top of mind. And you're 100% correct. We are so cyclical. We are so driven by our calendar. So if we don't, you know how it is, if we don't put it in our calendar, we won't do it. So put it on your to-do list to add. That was fantastic. What about for the recognition of non-monetary drivers? Did anyone get to that question? Did anyone have any good suggestions for this one? Anyone get to this question, talking about it at their table, or have any good recommendations? Go ahead.
We're 100% remote.
Okay.
And we wanted to find a way for people to recognize each other.
Nice.
And we have been operating on EOS for several years. And
Okay.
one of the things you do in that methodology is you create your company values. And they really aren't just, something on the wall. It's like what you really live by. We hire to them. We review performance against the values. It's all about, are you really living out what we say we deliver?
Nice.
So we created a values and action board,
Ooh.
and people recognize each other. Leaders can send them to, but the idea is we want it to be peer-to-peer. This was a value in action, and it is just taken off. It's become like just such a great cheer board.
Nice.
And every quarter we recognize the people who got the most. We read them,
Mhm.
state of the company call. We also recognize the people who gave the most. And then
Nice.
we give out just a little Amazon gift card.
Love
So
that.
there is a monetary piece,
Yeah.
but it's more about the cheers.
Excellent. Very nice. Very nice. Go ahead. You have a question?
No, I was gonna, that was we have, as you mentioned, a real robust wellness program, and we were in mental health month was in May, and with each of our locations, Amanda printed out these big sheets and got colored pencils for coloring.
Oh,
And so for like a decompression, they went through color, and they're actually, some of them are already full.
very nice.
Big coloring.
Very good. But I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Very nice. Very nice. So a couple of things to mention on this one. If you are a smaller organization, and there are a lot of really Cadillac level programs that you can purchase with points and this and that. If you want to explore what those options are, you definitely want to look at talking to your employees first, right? What are the things, what are those intangible things? Because I have had conversations with employees at HCA, at Hopkins, at different places where we had these programs where they would literally take their points, whether they received them from wellness or they received them from recognition from a leader, and they would bank their points and then purchase things during the holidays, or they would bank their points and purchase the things that they normally wouldn't be able to afford, like a nice luggage set. So again, it sounds kind of frivolous. It sounds out of the scope of human resources, but these are things that people really look forward to. And I want you to, in your notes, put a little caveat here with the word buy-in. Buy-in, buy-in, buy-in. How can you get your most senior leaders' buy-in into these programs? Because if at the next all-hands meeting, if at the next annual conference, you have your CEO, your president, the owner of your company talking about these programs and like highlighting how much these programs can enhance daily life, that's where the real magic happens, right? We can walk around all day and pour our hearts out to our employees, That is what they expect of us. But if we can invite our executives and our leaders of our organization to buy in with us and to really highlight the use of those programs and highlight the importance of recognition, where, to Heather's point, that executive is also living out the values of your organization, that's the magic. That's the magic conversation. So have that conversation with your leader and share with them how impactful it can be if they talk about it and they do it and they participate in it. Imagine getting an email of recognition from one of the most senior leaders of the organization, from the COO or the CEO. That would be phenomenal, right? So those are the kinds of buy-in practices and conversations we want to actively have with our senior team. And those conversations are scary, I know. But you can get your data, you can get all the things that you need from your W3 peeps, and they can set you up with all the data that you need to have a good conversation with them. All right, the other one that I want to touch on very briefly, and I'm curious if you covered it in your conversations at the table. Anyone talk about documenting pay bands and making sure that those decisions are equitable across different protected classes? Did anyone talk about that? Why is that piece important? Why do we have to have justification in human resources for why we pay what we pay? Why do we have to have justification?
Pay equity.
Pay equity. Okay, so Michelle, say more. Pay equity. Just repeat it.
I mean, you don't want someone that is making way up high on the range.
Right.
Somebody just barely making or just right getting into the range.
Right.
And they have the same experience and it just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So that takes, you know, that's one thing that we need to look at for each position. You know, it's important to have that equal balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it is a mandate, right? It's a federal mandate. It's part of Title VII. It's part of the EEOC. These are all things that are on our radar as HR practitioners, especially if you're taking your SHRM classes. You know how important that is. But it is a mandate, and we want to have those conversations. These conversations happen more with hiring managers, right? When you have a hiring manager who really wants the new shiny person on their team, and they are expensive, and they are trying to convince you that if we just offer 10 grand more, that then we can get them in the door. But if that is going to disrupt your pay band, and that's going to disrupt your pay equity, that also needs to be taken into consideration. So I see a lot of head nods, so I know we're on the right track. Okay. This is fantastic. I hope you wrote down a couple of strategies from your neighbors and colleagues at the table. We're going to switch gears here a little bit, and we're going to have Katie come up, and she is going to do a continuation of our initial conversation that we had. And I'm going to hand it over to Katie. Of course.
So for those of you that attended our first session, this probably looks really familiar. During the first session, that was more of an introduction, more of a little teaser and homework. And so now we're actually putting what you learned into use in a real life exercise today with each table. I will go through this information for those of you who weren't able to join us in Q1 to kind of explain what we're going to be doing here. In your folder on the right side, you will have a benefits alignment matrix worksheet. This is what we're going to be working on with each table. So workforce segmentation. Stop designing your benefits to try to fit one size fits all. It's not going to work. We have to look at our current demographics that we have, right? So we have early career. This is going to be for ages 22 to 32, usually they're single or just newly married and no children. What are they going to want? Their top priorities are student loan benefits, mental health, EAP, HSA education. We have growing families, mid-year professionals, and pre-retirees. What I want you to do at your table is when you're looking at this worksheet is, and we can do this as a table or we can even do this individually, but I'm going to have a table talk, is I want you to identify where you're currently focused and why. I want to focus on early career because that's where we're doing a lot of hiring. Or maybe it's right now we're really focused on retention, and maybe it's in that mid-career professionals, okay? So take the next few minutes as a group or as a table. What segmentation or demographics do you guys want to focus on, and why is it important that you're going to be focused on that as we continue through this exercise? So I'll give you about 2 minutes to do that. Okay, I'm going to bring it back together. So I'm going to have this table back here go first, and what segment were you kind of focused on, and why, and what are some of their most popular needs? And you can pick any spokesperson from this table.
Okay, I guess I'm the speaker person, I'm the extrovert of the table. I love your slide. I love how it talks about, you're right on with the priorities and the communication focus, so thank you. This is great stuff. My eyes immediately went to the 40 to 55. That's the majority of our workplace. And then Carrie, our HR generalist here, said, yeah, but everybody we're hiring is in that 30 range. So whereas we have that set focus, and I've had those conversations with both Mike and Connor, knowing what's coming in the door as we recruit. We're a healthcare organization. So we're recruiting those younger nurses, those younger CNAs. So our focus is always, how can my CNA, or certified nursing assistant on a salary of $40,000 to $50,000 a year, cover their family benefits? So that's the W3 question. But I love what you said here about the different things. So we do a lot about what your retirement is that we offer, because we're fortunate, even as a nonprofit, we can match some of the money they put in their 403B. But it's those younger families. How do you get that pediatric care and making sure that they're trying to put money into the HSA? And what else we can do for them there. I mean, I've got some of my employees that are on, they're going to the Florida Kid Care. So what can we do about walk-in clinics and educating them that way? So I think it's important that as you look at this, realizing the demographic of your workforce is getting older, but you're hiring younger ones and they have a different focus. So keeping that in mind, that's where I really love that. Because my own personal, my age, I'm looking at the mid-career retirees, but I have to know the people I'm hiring are down there in the early career, building their career path as well as where their interest is with the student loans and whatnot, and never lose sight of that. Nice. And making sure my leadership team never loses sight of that as well. So thank you. This was a great exercise.
Oh, you're welcome, Jade. And it's been interesting is I'm going around to all the tables and hearing you say that. I'm going to have Brandy stand up and talk about what they were saying, because it's so similar.
When June was actually a plant.
We were discussing needs within our respective organizations, and I think the one item that stuck out for me was just bringing people in at their early career and growing families, and then missing that mid-career professional. So there's like a really nice gap, and then going into the pre-retiree. So I think that's a pretty drastic difference in needs at coming into a new career, and then when you're looking at different organizations who are just throwing all those other perks in people's faces, especially when you're a small organization and maybe can't afford to give those big, bold benefits in that capacity. That tends to be a struggle. We're also in the multifamily sector where we have other variables like people getting free apartments. How do you compete with free housing? So we try to do our best with that, but we're constantly evaluating that and just trying to see how we're going to transition to the next generation with our senior leadership and the knowledge that they bring, and retaining them so that they can mentor and have stretch assignments for those early career and growing family generations to meet those needs when they eventually are out in the workforce.
Yeah, and this all goes back and ties into what MJ was talking about, of having and truly laying out that career pathing for those employees so that they can stay with you from early career all the way to pre-retirees. And then I'm going to hold this table because I'm going to have you start when we talk about the next section. So this is where we're truly taking a look at your benefits from a utilization standpoint. And what I mean by utilization is how do they use their benefits, but how do they value the benefits that you have today? I mean, are you investing in benefits that honestly your employees just aren't using, don't care about, maybe they don't know about? And so what I want you to do as a table, and there's the nice grid is in here, is look at the benefits that you currently offer today and identifies the benefit. So you can do medical, EAP, kind of go a little bit of everywhere. Don't kind of stick with the core benefits. And are they high value, low use? Maybe there's a communication gap. Protect and promote. These are the benefits that are high value and high use. We want to keep these in our benefits package because they're competitive. Eliminate, replace. Are they low value and low use? Well, let's use that money and that resources in other benefits in the protect and promote. Optimize. These are your benefits that are low value, high use, and guess what? They're just a cost drain. So what I want you to do is, as a table, identify a couple benefits that you want to talk about. Are they value, use, activate, protect and promote, eliminate and replace, and optimize. And then based on that, the last two boxes say, pick one of those. How are you going to fix it? How are you going to correct it? What are you going to do with this information? Give you about 5 minutes here. Okay, I'm going to bring it back together. This almost there at the end. So, front table. Who would like to speak at the front table on maybe one or two of the benefits that you looked at and what quadrant it fell into? And then what are we going to do with the benefit?
You gonna go? No. You gonna go? For us, we really felt like EAP is not getting utilized, and its value is steadily increasing. But it's more of the EAP is to think of the fact that like 10% of high schoolers today reported seriously contemplating suicide. So while we feel like we're not getting the value out of it today, we feel like we need to figure out how to grow it over multiple years to become more impactful for our companies, because its necessity is just growing and ticking up year by year. We're a little concerned about the trust factor between the EAP and the employer. We keep telling people it's confidential, but we were just talking about a text message program that we all got to experience from Sherm Pinellas that really comes across as, okay, I got this from my employer, but this doesn't look like anything else that my employer is doing because it's coming in my text message, like just 2 sentences a day. That really just feels like something that can be a little bit more trustworthy and confidential, rather than I'm seeing it in my benefits dashboard, right? It feels really separated from everything else. They were talking in that study I heard yesterday about how many young people in those circumstances are turning to AI, right? To be like 25% turning to AI to for their mental health. Therapists, basically, like how should they treat themselves. So we need to figure out how to activate EAP more. And we think the solution is, let's keep it separated from its untrustedness as an employer benefit somehow, and maybe technology is a way to do it, but we really don't want our employees going to AI therapy. That's where we went.
Anybody else would like to share? 2 back tables, anyone? There we go.
So I brought up again in the Activate, it's the dependent care, FSA. And the reason, well, I have a 2.5-year-old granddaughter now, and my son was signing up for benefits, and I'm looking at his, he has me double check it, and I have 2 seconds to do, he has that much attention span. So I'm looking at it, and I'm like, well, you don't have, then it was $5,000, and I'm like, you don't have that, and I said, that's pre-tax, and that's money you're paying, and you're gonna get it back, because what are you talking about? He understood HSA, but he didn't understand the dependent care aspect of it. And having administered those plans for 100 years, and now the fact that they're indexed, because it hasn't been indexed in 30-some years, so now I think it's up to 7,500. But to educate people in that regard, so what we were talking about is when you've got your open enrollment, your online open enrollment, that there's a question that says, do you pay for outside child care, camps, whatever, or elder care, put that information in there, put that information in there, and have it a mandatory yes or no. And then when people are going through the enrollment process, the benefit ambassador, who's James' title, can look and do a report and see that how many people, which are probably going to be like 98% of the people are going to say yes, they have it, but they don't sign up for the dependent care. Then they can go educate them on how to sign up and how it is a huge value. Because I used to do that. I did the 5,000 for dependent care, and I did 5,000 for FSA because that's before it was capped. And that's exactly what I did. And it was a huge benefit, but you have to educate this. We were talking about comparison of 401k. People used to always want to get into it, but they didn't understand how to allocate their funds, and oh yeah, we're going to do that one. So auto-enrollment helped take that away, and then with the target funds, that helped do that. So going back to the dependent care, I think that would be a great way to help educate.
Okay.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great. That's an example of Activate. We identified it, and then it's a communication gap, it's an education, it's a learning gap. How can we close that gap? Perfect example. So thank you for your participation in the benefit matrix. I hope it was helpful. I'm going to hand it over to MJ to close us out.
Yes. All right. So we are going to save those cases that are in the end of your workbook page for another session. But what I want to close with here is and what I want you to put in your notes is we may not have realized when we signed up to be HR leaders and benefits leaders that we also need to be mathematicians. And we're talking about a lot of really complex topics, the HSA, the FSA, the benefits utilization, having these numbers in our mind. And we had a similar discussion last time, but I want you to really put this in your notes. Have an intentional strategy where you're putting it on your calendar so that everything that you've written down here today, you're carving out time to have that discussion with the CFO, to have that discussion with the president of the organization, with the COO, with whoever the decision makers are. But before you go and have that discussion, run your numbers, understand what your utilization is. Some of you are very fortunate to work in organizations that have beautiful utilization reports that are going to give you all of this detail. Some of you may not. Some of you may have different programs in place. But understanding your numbers and being able to really articulate in those conversations at the C-suite, this is what we need, and this is how it's going to impact retention. And when you go to have that discussion, bring the turnover numbers with you. Bring the cost of your turnover percentage numbers with you, and maybe even ask AI to make you a beautiful slide, right? That compares this amount of money, which is this, to this amount of money, which is this, right? This is our turnover, this is our cost of talent walking out the door, And this is our vacancy rate. Oh, this vacancy rate is so big. Everybody I talk to, vacancy is climbing, climbing, climbing. So cost of turnover, cost of vacancy here. And then here are the benefits, and here are the things that we want to offer. We want to put a nice recognition program in place. We want to get a better EAP. We want to get a better, whatever it is that you decide you need, and then you put that cost next to it. That's how you make change happen in your organization. You have to come with the data, and you have to put it in a nice visual so that everybody in the C-suite understands, okay? If you pull up a spreadsheet, the audience will be lost. So no spreadsheets. You want to have that data. You want to visualize that data for your senior team, compare those numbers, and that's how you'll make change happen. And this is a really good time frame to do it because you have 2027 coming up. You can get some good information, get a Microsoft form, get a Survey Monkey, talk to your people, find out what they need and want, and then make it happen. Before we close out, anyone want to ask any quick questions or anything top of mind? Anything like that? No? Okay. Well, I appreciate so much your time, your attention. I'm going to let you give a little goodbye, right?
Real easy.
Yeah, okay.
It's so short. It's thank you, MJ, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, MJ, so much for being here with us today. You are fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today. What a great conversation we had. If you'd like to continue the conversation, please hang out afterwards. I found out that MJ is a member at the Center Club, so we're gonna go take advantage of that out there. If you have time, you're welcome to join us. And also, you have surveys in your folder. If you would please, we read these, we take them seriously. If you would please fill them out before you go, that would really help us out. We want this to be, again, a conversation with you, and to do that, we need you to give us a little feedback. So thank you all very much.